Ever feel like typical mental health advice is kind of like trying to force a square peg into a round hole? Like something's missing.
Right.
Well, get ready, because today we're diving into The Maps We Carry by Rose Cartwright.
Okay.
And let me tell you, she goes there.
She does.
This is not your average, like, living with OCD and anxiety story.
Right.
She takes us on this journey.
Yeah.
It really questions how we even understand mental health in the first place.
It's true. And it's not just a memoir either.
Oh, yeah.
She brings in all this fascinating research, too.
Okay, cool. So one of the first things that, like, jumped out at me was how Cartwright talks about diagnosis.
Yeah.
She's been diagnosed with OCD and anxiety, but she's like, hold on a second.
Right.
Can one label really capture the whole messy reality of someone's, like, mental health experience?
That's so true.
It's like trying to sum up your entire life in one word.
Exactly.
It's impossible.
Yeah, you can't do it.
And Cartwright really highlights how this whole reliance on diagnoses can be so reductive.
It is. It's like it misses all these other things.
Totally.
The interplay between, like, your personal history, social influences, your body's own capacity to heal.
It's wild when you think about it.
It is.
And she's, like, really honest about this, too.
Yeah.
There's this part where she talks about how getting all these different diagnoses, none of which really felt right to her,
I remember that,
made her feel like she was constantly trying on clothes that just didn't fit.
Yes.
Have you ever felt that way?
Oh, absolutely.
Like, you get the diagnosis, but it's like, that's not the whole story.
It's like, yeah, close, but no cigar.
Exactly.
And that's actually what leads Cartwright to this really intriguing concept of trauma as a body story.
Okay, a body story.
Yeah, so she digs into the science
Okay.
and how early adversity
Because we might not even consciously remember, right?
exactly
Oh.
can actually rewire our nervous systems. Yeah, and then that impacts our behavior and our reactions for years.
Hold on, you're saying our childhoods can literally, like, trapped in our bodies?
In a way, yeah, that's kind of the idea.
That's huge.
It is huge, and it might explain why sometimes we feel stuck
Oh, totally.
in certain reactions,
Yeah.
Like, let's say someone with a history of trauma, they hear a loud noise, right?
Yeah.
Their amygdala, the fear center of the brain, it can just go haywire,
Wow.
triggering this, like, massive fight or flight response that just doesn't match the actual threat.
So it's not just, like, in our heads, it's like our bodies are trying to tell us something.
That's the thing. It's like Cartwright really emphasizes this.
Mm.
These patterns, even the ones that seem self-destructive,
Right.
they can be our body's way of trying to protect us, to keep us safe
Right.
based on what happened in the past.
So then, like, if our bodies are telling a story, how do we rewrite it?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question.
Right. Is that even possible?
Well, that's where Cartwright's exploration of storytelling and healing gets really, really interesting.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
She suggests that our minds, they're constantly trying to make sense of things, right?
Yeah.
So we create these narratives.
Okay.
And she even connects this to traditional healing practices.
Really?
Yeah, she points out how they often have this really clear story structure.
Huh. Interesting.
There's a separation from what was, then a transition or a challenge, and then this reintegration into a new state of being.
So it's like a journey, a story of transformation.
Exactly.
And she actually experiences this firsthand. Right?
She does, yeah. She goes to Côte d'Ivoire
Oh, wow.
and participates in an animist ceremony.
Now, for our listeners who might not know, what exactly is that?
Sure. It's a spiritual practice where everything, like nature, is seen as interconnected and having a spirit.
Interesting.
And this experience, it really highlights for Cartwright the contrast between different cultures' approaches to healing.
Oh, how so?
Well, the West often focuses on the individual, right? Finding solutions on your own.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But many traditional cultures, they see healing as this collective thing.
It takes a village.
Exactly.
And honestly, how often do we try to just, like, think our way out of stuff that actually requires us to, like, connect more deeply with others?
All the time, right?
Right. It's like we forget that we're not meant to do this alone.
And that's such a crucial point. Cartwright challenges this whole individualistic focus that's so big in Western mental health care.
Yeah.
She's reminding us about the power of connection, of belonging, for healing.
It's like we need that sense of community, that shared humanity.
We do, we really do.
And what's interesting? She even suggests that this whole modern obsession with self-help
Oh, wow, yeah.
might actually be a symptom of us being disconnected from those support systems that, like, throughout history have always been there for people.
Right. The village, the tribe, the community.
Exactly, and without that, it's like we're all just out here trying to figure it out on our own.
It's true.
Which, let's be real, is really, really hard.
It is.
And, you know, speaking of unexpected connections, Cartwright actually shares this story about how she found profound healing.
Oh, yeah.
Not from a therapy session, but from a spontaneous moment of connection with a facilitator during a psychedelic retreat.
Wow. Okay.
Now, we'll get into the whole psychedelics thing a bit later.
Right, right.
But that anecdote just really struck me, you know?
Yeah, powerful.
It speaks to this deep human need for connection, for shared experience, for feeling truly seen and understood.
Absolutely. It's like we're wired for it,
Yeah.
you know? And when that need isn't met,
Yeah.
it can show up in ways we don't expect.
Oh, 100%. And speaking of unexpected, Cartwright's journey takes a fascinating turn.
Okay.
When she stumbles upon something that rocks her whole understanding of mental health to its core.
Oh, no, what happened? So picture this, right?
Okay.
Cartwright's at home, and she just happens to drop her medical records.
Oh, no.
And as she's picking them up,
Yeah.
she notices something, and it just, like, sends chills down her spine.
Okay, what is it?
Despite all the talk about chemical imbalances and brain disorders,
Yeah.
there's actually zero concrete evidence.
What?
No biological root cause for any mental health diagnosis.
Wait, are you serious?
Totally serious.
But we've all heard about, like, chemical imbalances and stuff.
Right, exactly. It's like misleading.
So you're telling me they haven't actually found a specific thing that causes, say, depression or anxiety?
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Wow, that's kind of a bombshell.
It is, right? And for Cartwright, it was huge.
Yeah, I bet.
It's like we're searching for treasure, but the map we're using, it's based on, like, guesswork,
Right.
not actual landmark.
Not real science.
Exactly. And so this discovery, it sends Cartwright on this whole quest, right?
Of course. Yeah, like what's going on here?
To figure out why this information isn't more widely known.
That's a good question. Why isn't it?
Right. So she starts exploring all these alternative modalities.
Okay.
Things like craniosacral therapy.
Craniosacral therapy. Now, I'll be honest, I'm not super familiar with that.
Yeah, a lot of people aren't. So basically, it's this really gentle, hands-on approach
Yeah.
that focuses on the body's subtle energy systems
Oh,
and how they connect to, like, our overall well-being.
interesting.
So the idea is that trauma, stress, all that stuff, it can create these blockages, these restrictions in the flow of energy.
Oh, I see. Like energy can get stuck.
Exactly.
And that can then manifest as like physical or emotional problems.
That's the idea.
Like her entire view of mental health is just being like flipped on its head.
Totally. And you can see it in her writing.
Yeah,
It takes on this whole new depth, you know.
I like that.
She starts making all these connections between trauma, storytelling, healing.
Okay, so how does that all fit together?
Well, for example, she explores this idea that our modern obsession with diagnosing mental health conditions.
Right, like putting a label on everything.
Exactly. She's saying maybe that's actually doing more harm than good.
Really? How?
Well, she argues that by being so focused on the individual diagnosis,
Yeah.
we miss the bigger picture, like the social and environmental factors that are also at play.
The stuff that's happening around us.
Exactly. Things like poverty, social isolation, systemic inequality.
Right, the systems we're all operating within.
Exactly. And those things has a huge impact.
They do, and sometimes it feels like those bigger issues are ignored.
They are, way too often.
So it's like saying there's something wrong with you,
Yes.
instead of asking what happened to you
Exactly.
and how can we support you.
It's a totally different approach, right?
Right, one is about fixing the person,
Yeah.
and the other is about like understanding their experience,
And creating a supportive environment.
which is huge. That sense of support can make all the difference.
It really can. And it leads us to another really important insight from Cartwright's journey.
Okay, what's that?
The importance of understanding why we do the things we do.
You mean our coping mechanisms?
Exactly. Even the ones that seem,
Unhealthy.
yeah, even self-destructive behaviors.
Right, because sometimes those behaviors are serving a purpose.
Exactly. Cartwright is challenging this idea that those behaviors are just like these pathological urges,
Right, that there's something inherently wrong with the person doing them.
Exactly. She's encouraging us to look deeper.
To have compassion.
Yes. To see the pain, the unmet needs.
The desire to regain control.
Exactly. She talks about her own struggles with things like bulimia and self-harm.
Wow, that's really personal.
It is, and she's very honest about it.
It takes a lot of courage to share that kind of stuff.
It does. And I think it's really powerful because she's not glorifying it, but she's also not demonizing it.
Right, she's just saying, this is what happened and this is why I think I did it.
Exactly. And she's inviting us to do the same, to approach ourselves and others with more compassion.
Because we're all just doing the best we can with what we've got.
Exactly. And that's a really powerful message, I think.
It is. So where do psychedelics fit into all of this? We kind of touched on it earlier.
Ah, yes. Psychedelics.
Right, because Cartwright explores them in the book, right?
She does. She dives right in, actually.
Okay, and what's her take? Is she, like, pro-psychedelic?
Well, she's definitely not advocating for, like, reckless use or anything.
Right, of course.
But she explores how psychedelics, when they're used in a safe and therapeutic setting,
yeah, that's key.
right, that they might be able to help us access and process those really deep-seated traumas.
Okay, so kind of like a tool for healing.
Exactly. And also to, like, rewrite those narratives that are keeping us stuck.
The ones that say we're not good enough or we're not worthy of love.
All of that, yeah. And also to foster a sense of connection and wholeness.
Which is something that a lot of people are searching for.
Totally. And she actually tries these substances herself, too, you know.
She does? Okay, like which ones?
Well, she talks about her experiences with psilocybin.
Which is the psychoactive compound in magic mushrooms.
Right, exactly. And also MDMA.
Which is more commonly known as ecstasy.
Yeah. And she's really honest about her experiences, too.
Like, what was it like for her?
Well, she describes both the profound insights
Okay.
and also the challenging emotional upheavals.
Because it's not always easy, right?
Exactly. It can be really intense. And she's careful to emphasize that these aren't like magic bullets or anything.
Right. It's not just like you take this thing and all your problems disappear.
Exactly. There's still a lot of work involved both before and after.
Integration is key.
It's essential. And she really stresses the need for a supportive therapeutic container when you're exploring these substances.
Yes. That idea of a supportive container is so important.
It is, because it's like, even if you have the right map,
Right.
you still need the right vehicle and a skilled navigator to help you through the terrain.
That's such a good analogy because it can be scary, you know, going to those deep places within ourselves.
Totally. And it can be disorienting.
Right. Like, where am I? How did I get here? How do I get back?
Exactly. And that's where the support comes in.
And you know what's interesting? Cartwright also draws these parallels between the transformative potential of psychedelics
Yeah.
and the transformative experiences that are offered by traditional rituals and ceremonies.
Oh, absolutely. Like shamanic healing practices, sweat lodges, vision quests.
Right, these ancient practices that have been around for centuries.
Exactly. And a lot of them involve altered states of consciousness, too.
Right, induced through things like drumming, chanting, or plant medicines.
And they often provide this really structured and supportive environment for exploring challenging emotions, connecting with a sense of the sacred, and then reintegrating those experiences back into everyday life.
It's like these ancient cultures, they've known for a long time what we're just now starting to rediscover.
What's that?
That healing often happens in community, in connection with something larger than ourselves.
It makes you wonder, doesn't it?
It really does. Like, have we lost touch with something essential in our modern approach to mental health?
I think that's a really important question to be asking.
For sure. And speaking of connection, Cartwright's journey takes an even more personal turn when she starts digging into her own family history.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So family history, it can be like a really powerful thing to unpack.
It can be so revealing, right? Like those hidden patterns and connections that have shaped us.
Totally. And Cartwright doesn't just passively, uncover facts about her past. She actively engages with it.
That's interesting. How so?
She seeks out her family's perspectives, shares her discoveries with them.
Wow, so it's like they're rewriting their family narrative together.
Exactly. And it's beautiful, actually.
I bet it's like that saying, the truth will set you free.
Right. But it's not always easy to get there.
Oh, for sure. It takes courage.
And vulnerability.
Absolutely. But the rewards can be huge.
Totally. And for Cartwright, it's like as she's unpacking all of this, she starts to see how profoundly these individual experiences,
Right, hers and her family's.
are intertwined with these larger social and environmental factors.
It's like zooming out and seeing the whole tapestry, not just the individual threads.
Yes, that's a great way to put it.
Because it's all connected, right?
It really is. And it makes you wonder how often we miss that bigger picture when it comes to mental health.
All the time, probably.
Right. Like how often do we just focus on the individual diagnosis?
And not the context, the environment, the systems that person is living within.
Exactly. Like things like poverty, lack of access to education, systemic discrimination.
All of those things have a huge impact on our well-being.
For sure. And, Cartwright doesn't shy away from any of that.
Which is great because those are important conversations to be having.
They are, and she challenges us to consider that true healing, like real lasting healing.
Yeah.
It requires a shift in perspective.
Okay, I like that. What does that look like for her?
Well, for one thing, it's about recognizing that our well-being is completely connected to the well-being of our communities and the planet as a whole.
It's like that saying, we're all in this together.
Exactly. And, that can feel really overwhelming, right?
Oh, totally. Because what am I, one person, supposed to do about all those big problems?
Right. It's like, how do we even begin to address those larger systemic issues?
It's a lot, for sure.
It feels like a lot, but Cartwright, she suggests that one really powerful tool we have is storytelling.
Okay, interesting. Tell me more about that.
Well, she believes that by sharing our stories, by giving voice to our experiences, it can raise awareness, challenge stigma.
It can create connection, too.
Totally, and it can inspire change.
Because when we hear other people's stories, it helps us feel less alone.
For sure. And it can also help us see the world in new ways, to challenge our assumptions.
And to find our own voices.
Yes. And Cartwright, she argues that storytelling can also help us reimagine our relationship with the natural world.
Oh, I love that, because that connection to nature is so important.
It is, and we've lost touch with it in so many ways.
We're so disconnected.
In Cartwright, she talks about this one experience in nature.
What happened?
She's just out there, and she suddenly sees the world with this incredible clarity and depth.
Wow, that's beautiful.
It is, and she talks about perceiving this, interconnectedness of all things.
Oh, I love that. It's like those moments when you're out in nature and you feel this sense of awe and wonder.
Yes. Like you're part of something so much bigger than yourself.
It's humbling and inspiring at the same time.
Totally. And Cartwright suggests that we need to cultivate more of those experiences.
Get out in nature more, you mean?
Yes, but also approach life with that same sense of awe and wonder.
Be present, be curious.
Exactly. And remember that we're not separate from nature, we're part of it.
And when we harm the planet, we harm ourselves.
And when we heal the planet, we heal ourselves.
Powerful stuff.
It is. And it makes me think about our listeners who are on their own journeys of healing and self-discovery.
I imagine a lot of people listening can relate to this.
Totally. And what I hope they take away from Cartwright's journey is that there is so much hope and possibility out there.
Even when things feel really hard.
Especially then, because healing is not linear.
Oh no, it's messy.
It's a journey with twists and turns.
Setbacks and breakthroughs.
Exactly, and it's about learning to navigate all of that with courage and compassion.
And a willingness to keep growing and evolving.
Yes, and to remember that we don't have to do it alone.
There's strength in numbers for sure.
There really is, and Cartwright's story, it's a powerful reminder of that.
It's a testament to the human capacity for healing and transformation.
It really is, and it's an invitation to question our assumptions, to challenge the status quo.
To embrace the messy, beautiful, and ultimately liberating journey of becoming who we are truly meant to be.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And it's a reminder that even in the midst of suffering, even when we feel lost or broken, there's always hope.
Always. And there's always the possibility of healing, of growth, of finding our way back to wholeness and connection.
To ourselves, to each other, to the planet.
It's about recognizing the wisdom and resilience that's already within us.
And remembering that we are not alone. We are all in this together.
Beautifully said. And on that note, we'll leave you with this final thought from the maps we carry. What if the maps we're clinging to are actually leading us away from our own inner compass? That innate wisdom that guides us toward healing and wholeness.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Right. What would it look like to trust that inner compass, to embrace the unknown, and to allow ourselves to be guided by the wisdom of our own hearts?